Hey there. Ever get the feeling that the world of entrepreneurship is like a giant puzzle with a million different
Oh,
pieces?
absolutely.
You hear about folks launching startups, others building side hustles, and even big companies trying to innovate like little guys. It can feel like a lot to wrap your head around.
Totally.
But what if understanding the different kinds of entrepreneurs out there could actually give you a clearer picture?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Whether you're dreaming of starting your own thing, maybe working with entrepreneurs, or you're just fascinated by what makes them tick, knowing the lay of the land can be a real game changer.
That's exactly what we're hoping to explore today. Think of it as getting, the inside scoop on the entrepreneurial world.
Right.
We've gathered some really interesting perspectives from the foundational ideas at places like Harvard Business School Online to real-world experiences shared by entrepreneurs on YouTube, and even some more academic insights.
Yeah. We've got a whole mix of sources we've been digging through, pulling out the juiciest bits from channels like Topher Morrison, the 1% Club, Ignite Spot Accounting Services, Greg Faxon, Mark Dama, Single Grain, Dreamrise. Gosh, and even some articles that really get into the nitty-gritty of business.
It's quite a collection.
It is.
Okay.
So our goal today is pretty straightforward: to get a better handle on the different flavors of entrepreneurship. We want to understand what drives these folks, what hurdles they typically face, and ultimately give you a much clearer view of this super dynamic world. Okay, so where should we jump in?
Well, maybe let's start with some of the core qualities, the things that tend to show up again and again in successful entrepreneurs. Harvard Business School Online, for instance, points out that while there's no single magic formula, there are definitely some common threads.
Right, like curiosity. That makes so much sense. They talk about entrepreneurship being a process of discovery, and I mean, you're not going to find anything new if you're not asking questions,
Yeah.
right? Wondering, what if?
Exactly. It's that basic urge to explore and learn. You have to be curious.
Mm-hmm.
And that curiosity often leads directly to a willingness to experiment. But it's not just, randomly trying stuff.
Not just throwing things at the wall.
Right. HBS Online emphasizes doing this in a structured way, almost like a science experiment. Think about validating a new product idea through market research or testing different messages to see what resonates.
Yeah, you absolutely have to test your assumptions. And things hardly ever go exactly according to the initial plan, do they?
Huh. Rarely.
Yeah.
And that's where adaptability kicks in.
Yeah.
You mentioned Ignite Spot earlier, and they have that glass of water idea later on.
Uh-huh.
It's that same concept. You've got to be able to adjust.
Roll with the punches.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Being adaptable means constantly looking at your situation, being flexible enough to steer your business forward, even when, unexpected stuff pops up.
Okay. And what about making the tough calls?
Ah, yes. Decisiveness.
Mm,
Entrepreneurs face difficult decisions all the time, and they need the confidence to make those calls and see them through.
for sure. You can't just get stuck in analysis paralysis forever.
No way.
Mm.
But being decisive also means, and this is important, being willing to change course if that initial decision turns out to be wrong. It's all part of learning and moving forward,
Got it. Learning from mistakes.
which connects really nicely to self-awareness. Knowing your own strengths, and maybe more importantly, your weaknesses, is just so crucial.
Yeah.
Well, a smart entrepreneur knows what they're good at, but they also know where they need help. They build teams with people who have complementary skills. It's almost never a solo journey to big success.
That's a great point. Build a team around you. Okay, and then there's the big one everyone thinks about: risk tolerance.
Right. But it's not about being reckless, is it?
No, exactly. HBS Online talked about calculated risks. It's about weighing the potential upsides against the downsides and actively trying to minimize those downsides, looking to benefit from the upside, as they put it. It's quite thoughtful, actually.
That's a really important distinction, calculated risk. And going hand in hand with risk is something that's almost inevitable, isn't it? Comfort with failure.
Ah, yes. The F word in business.
Kind of. It's almost seen as a rite of passage. HBS professor William Salmon shared some, pretty eye-opening stats about how many startups actually don't make it in the long run.
Oof, yeah, I bet those numbers are sobering. But the key is, successful entrepreneurs don't let that fear stop them, right? They see failure as a chance to learn something.
Exactly. Pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and try again, but smarter this time, with more knowledge.
That resilience, that grit.
That's powered by persistence. You're going to hit roadblocks. Your first few ideas might totally bomb,
Yeah.
but the willingness to keep learning, keep plugging away towards your goals, that's critical.
It's that never say die attitude. keep going. And often what drives that constant improvement, that trying again, I guess it's innovative thinking.
Spot on. And it doesn't always mean inventing something completely brand new out of thin air.
Right. It can be improving things too.
Definitely. It can be taking existing ideas or products and making them significantly better, or finding creative solutions to problems people have. It's like flexing your problem-solving muscles regularly.
I like that.
Mm.
Flexing those muscles.
And finally, HBS Online highlights having a long-term focus. Starting a business might be the easy part, relatively speaking.
If you can call it easy.
Fair point. But the real challenge is building something sustainable, something that lasts and grows over time. They have a great line. It's easy to start a business, but hard to grow a sustainable and substantial one.
That really sums it up. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Precisely.
Okay, so those are some really key characteristics that seem to pop up a lot. But the world of entrepreneurship isn't just about how people act, it's also about why they do it, right? Their motivation, their overall approach.
Absolutely. And that's where we see some really interesting ways people have tried to categorize entrepreneurs. Different types, different styles.
Yeah, like what?
Well, Daniel Priestley, through Topher Morrison's channel, gives us a really relatable way to look at it with his 3 types. First, you have the newbies.
Okay, the beginners.
Right. They're full of passion, just absolutely thrilled to be their own boss, maybe working crazy long hours. But the thing is, they often don't make a lot of money, at least initially. Sometimes they mistakenly think that just working really, really hard is the whole secret sauce.
The classic, I'm so passionate, but my bank account is crying scenario. We've all
Yeah.
seen that, or maybe even been there.
Exactly. Then you have the worker bees.
Worker bees.
Yeah. These are the folks who are putting in the effort, probably still working pretty hard, but maybe that initial boundless enthusiasm has, worn off a bit.
Okay.
They might even look at the newbies with a little bit of envy for that initial spark. But they're also looking up at Priestley's 3rd type, the key people of influence, or KPIs.
KPIs sounds important. What makes them KPIs?
These are the folks who are really well known, the go-to people in their industry. They're respected. Business seems to find them. They don't have to constantly chase it down.
So they've built that reputation.
Exactly. And the worker bees can sometimes feel a bit frustrated, maybe wondering why the KPIs seem to get better results with less visible hustle. But ultimately, that's the level they aspire to. They want to become a KPI.
So it's kind of like an industry ladder based on your influence and how much you have to grind for new business.
That's a pretty good way to put it. And Priestley's work suggests there are pathways, strategies to actually move from being a worker bee to becoming a KPI.
Interesting. Okay, so that's one way to slice it. What else?
Well, switching gears a bit, the 1% Club offers another interesting angle. They categorize entrepreneurs based on their core driving force, what really motivates them deep down.
Okay, driving force. What are the main ones they identify?
First, they talk about entrepreneurs driven primarily by ego.
Ego.
Yeah. Their focus is very much on personal achievements, status, showing off success, the fancy car, the big house, the recognition.
Okay.
The 1% Club suggests that this can actually be a bit precarious long term. That kind of motivation might not be enough to sustain you when things get really, really tough.
That makes sense. External validation can be fleeting, right? So what's the alternative?
The second type they identify is driven by others. This could be their family, their customers, maybe their local community. There's a feeling of wanting to provide for or support the people around them.
That feels, well, a lot more grounded, a more solid reason to keep pushing through difficulties.
It often is. And the third type, according to the 1% Club, are the entrepreneurs driven by vision and mission.
The big picture, folks.
Exactly. Their main goal is to make a broader impact, maybe solve a significant problem in the world, contribute something meaningful. They're often more likely to persevere because their why is bigger than just personal gain. And interestingly, personal success often follows naturally when you're genuinely pursuing that larger purpose.
That's really powerful. It really highlights how important having a clear sense of purpose can be. Okay, now, I remember IgniteSpot Accounting Services had some fun analogies, like animals.
So they do. It's quite memorable. First, there's the duck.
A duck.
Yeah. This is the entrepreneur who feels they need everything perfectly planned out, all their ducks in a row, before they can even think about starting. They might spend ages on super detailed plans, analyzing every possible angle.
Oh, I can totally picture that type, the ultimate planner. But IgniteSpot sees a potential downside to that, right?
Exactly. Trying to achieve absolute perfection, especially in business, can just lead to procrastination. Analysis paralysis again. The market is always changing, so waiting for everything to be absolutely just right might mean you miss your chance completely.
Right. Sometimes you just have to jump in the water even if your feathers aren't perfectly preened. What's the next animal in their entrepreneurial menagerie?
That would be the firecracker.
Oh, hey, firecracker. Sounds energetic.
Very. This is the entrepreneur who starts with this huge burst of energy, tons of ideas, super enthusiastic. But they quickly lose interest and jump to the next shiny thing as soon as it gets a bit difficult or tedious. They don't often see a project all the way through to fruition.
Ugh. The entrepreneurial butterfly. Loves the initial spark, but maybe doesn't stick around for the long burn. That kind of reminds me of Seth Godin's idea of the dip, that tough middle part where things get hard and a lot of people quit.
Precisely the same concept.
Yeah.
It's navigating that dip that's often the hardest part.
So true. Okay, and the third ignite spot type.
The third one is the glass of water.
Glass of water. How does that work?
This type is flexible, adaptable. Like water taking the shape of its container, this entrepreneur adapts to what the market and their customers actually need. They're willing to let go of their own ego, listen hard, and adjust based on what the market is telling them.
I like that image, being able to flow and adjust rather than being rigid and maybe breaking. It sounds like a really resilient approach.
It often is, yeah. Now, Greg Faxon offers yet another way to look at it, categorizing entrepreneurs based on what their primary activity tends to be, what they most enjoy doing.
Interesting. What are the key activities he focuses on?
First, there are the creators. These are the folks who just love to build things. It could be content, systems, products, even entire organizations. They thrive when they're actively making something new.
So the innovators, the builders, the makers. Got it. What's next?
Then there are the connectors. These entrepreneurs are brilliant at networking. They excel at bringing people together, linking individuals with each other or with the resources they need. Greg mentions Joe Polish as a prime example, someone known for creating incredibly valuable connections.
Ah, the super networkers. They see the power in relationships and making introductions. The social hubs. And the third type.
The third type Greg identifies is servers. These entrepreneurs find their greatest satisfaction in directly helping clients, providing their expertise one-on-one or in small groups. Their business really revolves around the direct application of their personal skills and knowledge to serve others.
So the act of service itself is really central to what drives them and their business. Okay, now Mark Dama looks at entrepreneurs based on their current state or where they are right now, which is a really insightful perspective too.
It is, because people can move between these states. He identifies the stuck entrepreneur. This is someone who, frustratingly, knows what they should be doing to grow their business. They have the knowledge. Maybe they've read the books, taken the courses, but for some reason, they just can't seem to take consistent action.
Oh man, that sounds incredibly frustrating. Like knowing the path, but feeling like your feet are glued to the floor.
Exactly. Dama suggests there's often a conflict between their conscious goals and maybe some subconscious habits or beliefs holding them back. He even mentions things like self-hypnosis as a potential tool to help realign those.
Wow, okay. So getting unstuck. What's another state?
Then there's the lost beginner. This entrepreneur is full of passion, super enthusiastic, but they lack clarity. They don't really know the necessary steps to take. They might try a lot of different things, bounce around, but without a clear roadmap, they end up wasting time, energy, and maybe money.
It's like being really eager to bake an amazing cake, but having absolutely no recipe to follow. You just start throwing ingredients in a bowl.
Perfect analogy. And the third state Dama mentions.
Let me guess. The successful one.
Pretty much. The unstoppable achiever. This is the entrepreneur who is relentlessly pursuing their goals. They consistently take action, find ways over or around obstacles, and just keep moving forward.
The high achiever. Okay, now Single Grain looks at things from yet another angle. How many ventures an entrepreneur is juggling?
Yes, this is about focus.
Yeah.
They describe the parallel entrepreneur. This
Yeah.
is someone managing multiple businesses or significant projects at the same time. Think Gary Vaynerchuk, maybe.
Right, involved in lots of things.
Exactly. While it can seem impressive, Single Grain points out the obvious risk: spreading yourself, your time, your energy, your resources too thin.
Trying to juggle too many balls at once sounds exhausting, and like it would be hard to do any one thing really well. What's the next type?
The serial entrepreneur. This is the entrepreneur who typically focuses intensely on one business at a time. They build it, maybe grow it, possibly sell it or exit, and then move on to the next venture. Kevin Rose is sometimes cited as an example. Single Grain sees this as a more balanced approach generally.
Focused energy on one project, seeing it through before starting something new. That makes sense for really making an impact or achieving a specific goal. And the third,
The repeat entrepreneur. This type often starts similar ventures after having a successful exit. They leverage their existing expertise, their network, their understanding of a particular market. Like Eric See potentially starting another ad agency after building one, or Stuart Butterfield founding Slack after Flickr. They stick to what they know works. Single Grain suggests this is often the least risky path of the three.
Right, sticking with your proven playbook. A smart way to leverage hard-won experience. Now, Dreamrise talks about archetypes, which feels a bit different again.
Yeah, archetypes tap into those fundamental patterns. They present the visionary entrepreneur. These are the big picture thinkers, the dreamers, often focused on groundbreaking ideas and the future. Elon Musk often gets mentioned here.
Okay, the idea generators.
Exactly.
Yep.
But the challenge for them, as Dreamrise points out, can be bridging the gap between that grand vision and the practical day-to-day execution needed to make it real.
The dreamers who maybe need someone to help them figure out the actual nuts and bolts of building the dream. What's the next archetype?
The hustler entrepreneur. Think action-oriented. These folks thrive on hard work, persistence, getting things done. Mark Cuban is often used as an example. They're grinders. They make things happen.
The doers.
The doers. Their challenge, though, might be occasionally needing to pull back from the hustle, lift their heads up, and focus more on the overall strategy, the bigger picture.
Right, can't just hustle without direction.
Right.
And the final Dreamrise archetype.
The analyst entrepreneur. These are the meticulous planners, the data-driven decision makers. They rely heavily on strategic thinking, research, and analysis. Warren Buffett is the classic example here.
The careful strategists. Wow, it's amazing how many different lenses there are to view entrepreneurs through.
It truly is. And just to round it out, we have a more, let's say, academic perspective from Dr. Vijayaram Gajapathy, who gives us a whole set of more formal categories, often drawing on classic business theory.
Okay, let's hear the academic take.
Well, he talks about classic or small business entrepreneurs. These are often focused on stability, serving local market needs. Your typical Main Street businesses, perhaps.
Right.
Then you have scalable startup entrepreneurs. These are the ones aiming for high growth, market disruption, often using innovation and technology. Think Silicon Valley.
The local bakery versus the next big tech giant. Got it.
Exactly. He also highlights social entrepreneurs, who we touched on briefly with the 1% Club. These folks are primarily driven by a desire to address social or environmental problems. Their main goal is impact, sometimes more so than profit. Examples like Grameen Bank or TMS's evolving model or Warby Parker come up here.
Businesses with a clear mission beyond just the bottom line.
Right. Then we see serial entrepreneurs again, which aligns with how Single Grain defined them, starting and growing businesses sequentially.
Okay, that one's familiar now.
Then there are lifestyle entrepreneurs. This is an interesting one. They prioritize their personal happiness, independence, and achieving a certain work-life balance. They often choose businesses that allows them flexibility in terms of time or location.
Ah, the digital nomads maybe? Or people designing their work around their life, not the other way around.
Precisely. The benefits are control and freedom, but the drawbacks can include unpredictable schedules, especially at first, and maybe irregular income.
Trade-offs, always trade-offs.
Always. Following that, Dr. Gajapathy mentions corporate entrepreneurs, sometimes called intrapreneurs. These are the innovators working within large, established organizations, driving new projects or ventures from the inside.
Okay, shaking things up from within.
Then, drawing on the work of theorists like Clarence Danhoff and Joseph Schumpeter, he discusses Schumpeter's innovative entrepreneur. This is the classic inventor type who doesn't just invent, but also commercializes their invention, turning it into a marketable product or service. Schumpeter saw these figures as crucial for economic growth. Peter Drucker, a leader, added that innovation isn't just for geniuses, it can be a disciplined process.
So taking those brilliant ideas and actually making them into real-world solutions people can use.
Exactly. Next are adoptive or imitating entrepreneurs. These entrepreneurs essentially copy or adapt successful innovations developed elsewhere. This is seen as particularly important in emerging economies, allowing them to quickly adopt existing technologies. The example given was Cochin Shipyard adapting shipbuilding tech.
Okay, learning from others' successes.
Then there are Fabian entrepreneurs. These are very cautious, skeptical types. They only adopt changes or innovations when the risk of not doing so becomes too great, like if all their competitors are doing it and they'll be left behind.
Reluctant adopters, only when forced.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And lastly, he mentions drone entrepreneurs. These are the ones who actively resist change. They stick to traditional, often outdated methods, even when the market has moved on. Unsurprisingly, this often leads to business failure.
Wow. That's a whole spectrum, isn't it? From the absolute cutting-edge innovators all the way to those completely stuck in the past.
It really covers the gamut.
Now, regardless of which type someone falls into, running any kind of business isn't exactly a walk in the park, is it?
Not at all. And
Huh.
CNIB, the Canadian National Institute for the Blind, actually outlined some of the key challenges entrepreneurs face, which apply broadly.
Oh, interesting source. What are some of the big hurdles?
Well, not surprisingly, financial problems top the list. Especially when starting out, just having enough resources, enough capital, is a major issue. They suggest looking into all the options.
Yeah.
Loans, grants, maybe bootstrapping with personal investment.
Yeah, money definitely makes the business world go round, or at least keeps the lights on. And starting something new often requires taking a significant financial leap.
For sure. Another big challenge they highlight is having a good marketing vision.
Hmm.
Really understanding your target market, figuring out how to reach them, and even trying to predict market trends. CNIB even mentions things like using statistical software like SPSS to help analyze data for forecasting.
Wow, getting technical.
Anyway,
But yeah, knowing who's going to buy what you're selling and how to actually connect with them is so fundamental, but it's often not obvious at all.
absolutely not. Then there's the challenge of building a team. Finding the right people isn't just about skills on a resume. It's about ensuring they align with your vision, that they're passionate about the business too.
You're only as strong as your team, right? Getting the right people on the bus, as they say, can make or break you.
Totally. And related to marketing, finding customers is another major early challenge. When you're new, nobody knows you exist. So figuring out how to reach that target audience initially, often using low-cost strategies like networking or social media, is critical.
Yeah, getting the word out and attracting those first crucial customers can feel like a real uphill battle sometimes.
Definitely. And you can't talk challenges without mentioning competitors.
Mhm.
But CNIB has a nice take on this. They encourage shifting your perspective a bit.
How so?
The competition not just as a threat, but also as something that pushes you to innovate, to be better. And frankly, the existence of competitors often validates that there's a market for your idea in the first place. The key is staying informed about what they're doing.
That's a good mindset. Competition keeps you sharp.
Right. Time management and assignment of tasks is another huge struggle. Entrepreneurs, especially early on, often feel like they have to do absolutely everything themselves.
The classic wearing all the hats problem.
Exactly. Which leads straight to burnout.
Oh,
So, learning how to prioritize effectively, how to actually delegate tasks to that team you're building, and how to measure performance, those become really essential skills.
yeah, trying to do it all yourself is just not sustainable. Learning to let go and trust others is vital.
And finally, CNIB touches on a very practical risk, leaving your current job to pursue the entrepreneurial dream. They stress the need for careful planning before you make that leap, having a solid plan B, and crucially, having enough savings to support yourself during those initial, often lean months or even years.
Yeah, jumping ship too soon without a life raft of savings can definitely sink your entrepreneurial dreams before they even get a chance to float. Prudent planning is key. Now, what about the flip side? What if you find yourself working with one of these entrepreneurial types, specifically, say, a visionary? GCE Strategic Consulting had some thoughts on that.
They did. They describe these visionary entrepreneurs as typically being really passionate, very driven, optimistic, quite strategic in their thinking, often good communicators of their big ideas, and definitely willing to take risks.
Sounds like quite the whirlwind of exciting ideas and energy. What are the good things about working alongside someone like that?
Well, the big upsides include their knack for seeing opportunities that others might completely miss.
Hmm.
Their willingness to take chances, to try bold new things can be really energizing. And their passion and drive can be incredibly infectious and motivating for the whole team.
That sounds great, very inspiring. But I sense a but coming. There have to be some challenges too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Hmm.
Visionaries, because they're so focused on the big picture and moving fast, can sometimes be impatient, maybe impulsive, making decisions without fully thinking through the implications or the details. They might also struggle with delegating tasks effectively. Maybe because they have such a clear picture in their head, they find it hard to let go. They can be quite demanding. And sometimes their tendency to chase every new shiny idea that pops into their head can lead to wasted time or the team feeling pulled in too many directions. They mentioned an example about constantly wanting to rearrange the office or get standing desks.
Ah, the classic brilliant ideas but maybe struggles with the follow-through or the mundane details scenario. So what's the secret then to working effectively with a visionary? How do you harness that energy without getting derailed?
GCE really emphasizes the importance of partnership. Specifically, having a complementary partner, someone they often call an integrator.
You're an integrator.
Yeah, this is someone who is more grounded, more focused on process and execution. They can take those amazing big ideas from the visionary, help translate them into actionable plans, keep the team focused and on track, and basically make sure that things actually get done. They bring balance.
That makes perfect sense. The dreamer needs the doer, or at least the organizer, to help bring those dreams into reality, yin and yang.
Exactly. It's about finding that complementary dynamic. So as we kind of wrap things up here, you can really see just how incredibly diverse this world of entrepreneurship is. We've touched on such a wide spectrum of types, motivations, approaches, and of course the challenges they all face, drawing on everything from HBS to YouTube channels to academic frameworks.
It's been quite the exploration through the entrepreneurial landscape, and what really stands out to me is that there's clearly no single right way to be an entrepreneur. There isn't one type that's inherently superior or guaranteed to succeed.
Absolutely not. Success seems to hinge much more on, well, self-awareness, really understanding your own strengths, your weaknesses, your tendencies, and on adaptability, being able to adjust when things inevitably don't go according to plan. And crucially, aligning your specific approach with your goals and the realities of whatever market you're in.
That's a great summary. So for everyone listening, thinking about all these different perspectives we've chatted about today, what aspects of entrepreneurship really resonate most with you? Does hearing about these types change how you might view your own career path, or maybe how you see the business world playing out around you?
Yeah, it's definitely something worth pondering.
Maybe you even have a better idea now of which type you might identify with, or perhaps the types you recognize in the entrepreneurs you know or work with. Food for thought.